Keep me in the loop, Kent.
I tried, Matthew.
False.
There's a new kickoff rule coming in. The Chiefs might be uniquely positioned to take advantage of that. Plus, Chris Jones wants 1 billion sacks. Let's talk about it.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome into a live edition of the Casey Laboratory, presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our incredible partners in Possible. Here at KC Sports Network, I am here with my two wonderful partners in Possible, Maddie Lane and Craig Stout. Matthew Lane, hi, how are we?
You know, Kent, it's a somber day. This is the first day of the year without like any good sports on. There's a hockey game, I guess, going on, but like, you know, you can only get so deep into hockey. I try. It's a lot more fun in person than it is on TV, but that's about it. Like there's basketball, there's no game tonight. Football, no games. Like no good sports are playing. It's not the weekend for any fights. Nothing. So it's
Maddie, I mean, I feel like we need to bring Tucker D. Franklin in. Tucker, is there wrestling tonight?
Kind of.
I am currently watching AEW.
See, there you go.
So
there you go, Maddie.
I mean, MJF did come back, so like I am
there
like
you
half.
There you go.
Kid. Never mind.
It's
okay.
resolved.
So
yes, the NBA finals are currently on a break because the conference finals have not been particularly interesting due to the Celtics sweeping the Pacers and the Mavs. At least the Mavs Wolves series is good, but very clearly tilting one way. But we got football to talk about, Matthew. We have football things that we're going to discuss tonight.
It's May or June, one of those two.
And the Royals are 12 games over 500, and they're on pace. And they're looking good to be 13 over here because Seth Lugo is throwing a gem. 6-1 Royals right now. Nelson Velasquez has 2 homers tonight. So don't you go around telling me that there isn't sports on television right now. But let's get to the sport of choice for this show. We will get to the football here. And, you know, the new kickoff rules are going to be in place here in 2024.
I thought we were talking about badminton. You said the sport of choice.
You would forget it.
Oh, Craig and I would definitely play some badminton.
Oh, hell yeah.
Would you guys get into pickleball?
Yes.
Probably.
I would love to play pickleball someday. I've played like a couple times and it is so much fun. I just, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that maybe this was one of those things like when Kent tries to get us to go play golf with him, and Maddie and I are terrible and have not played golf in forever. And Kent's like, we should go do this activity with 2 of the most competitive people that I know, and I'm going to be really good at it.
Craig,
I'm sure there's people that are great at pickleball that would absolutely destroy me, but I have enough confidence at pickleball because there's enough just like athleticism that can be used that I feel like I could hold my own. Golf, no chance. I have no veil of confidence that I will be good at golf. But like pickleball, I'm sure I would lose, but I at least can believe before the game starts that I'm going to win. So like I would definitely play.
And like Maddie, like I feel like your whole brand is built on like being a tryhard a little bit. Like you're
for
just,
sure.
And so like when it comes to, you know, touch and skill, like when those things start getting involved, that's where things get a little hairy for you. 21,
no,
you know,
that's not true.
You're gonna play.
If you would ever lace them up and play me in one-on-one, you would find out real fast. But
you've told me exactly what you are. You have told me exactly what you are.
Artfully dodged this competition every time.
Yeah, you know, I think the funny thing is you know, like the 808 3-cone bit from I don't know 6 years ago.
Not a bit.
I did do that 6 years ago.
Yes, you're right. You did run an over 808 3-cone. You're absolutely correct.
I'm ready to say now, at 35 years old, I cannot run an 808 3-cone. 31-year-old Kent could. 31-year-old Kent that hadn't consumed as many Doritos as 35-year-old Kent has. So
my favorite part of that is Kent like expects us to believe that his kitchen has enough space for a 3-cone in it to pull this off. He doesn't My favorite part is he thinks he has enough space to do a full 3-cone drill in his kitchen, and that we're supposed to believe that that's where he did it.
I didn't say I did it in my kitchen. I said I went over to the football field.
No, you supposed to did it in socks. You said you did it in socks on hardwood.
No, that is not. You are making
it won't be me,
up now.
But somebody will rewind the tape and find that for us.
I'm not gonna go back. I don't know if that exists, but that tape doesn't exist because I never said that. But that's okay. I don't need your validation, Matthew. The same way I don't need the validation of my brother who tries to tell me I'm 5'11 3/4 and not 6 feet tall.
Nobody's 6 feet tall.
I am every bit of 6 feet. Anyways, we really need to this. We need to get this thing going. we need to get into football related things. Justin Reid is getting some looks on the kickoff team. You know, with the changes to the NFL rules, that 11th guy kicking the football, it becomes more valuable if he is able to actively be involved in the kickoff fit in the game. So she seemed to be actively exploring it. It sounded like something that we kind of had the conversation about when the rule got announced. It is starting to feel a little bit like there's a real chance that the Chiefs are going to look at doing this, Matthew.
Yeah, it would make sense. I've long wondered why our kickers can't be athletes, and now we are finally at the point to where like it fully behooves them to be athletes. The way the new things are breaking down, it's like, yeah, I hope teams try this. I hope the Chiefs are one of them. I hope that I know for a fact there are multiple NFL teams that have a player that can actually play like an offensive or defensive position that can kick a football. Now, can they kick it off at the same level as a kicker in the NFL? No, probably not. But with the new rules where things are changing up a little bit, you don't got to kick it as far. And there might be a little bit more emphasis on not having an 11th guy out there whose only hope is to slide trip a runner in the open field. It might make sense to have somebody out there who like actually participates in the tackling of a player. And obviously there are some kickers that exist that do make tackles or that will attempt. It's just, I think it makes sense if you have somebody capable of doing so to at least give them a couple looks, especially if there is a little bit less emphasis on the pinpoint accuracy or just the raw distance that goes into a kickoff. Like people don't underestimate, I guess, like the technique from a kickoff perspective, like trying to place the ball somewhere matters. The distance, it's a lot about how flexible you're going to be. These kickers do a lot of work to make sure that they maintain peak flexibility and everything they need at the right time. Justin Reid doesn't get afforded that like in the past. He doesn't have that freedom. He has to also be able to play safety at a high level. But now if he doesn't have to worry about trying to kick the ball 70 yards every time, maybe that makes him a little bit more viable to actually kick it off. So I'm excited. I want to see what happens here. Less specialists, the better, in my opinion.
As you look down the rundown off to the side there, we will get to specialists a little bit later in this. No, it makes sense. And Andy Reid talked about it not from the perspective of, oh, yeah, it's good to have a guy like Justin Reid that can take kicks and having a backup kicker and doing all this stuff, that Andy typically does. He went into the reason why. Said, listen, the way that this is all set up now, it is one uniform line of people. And after, a runner clears that first line, it's them and the kicker now all of the sudden. Would you rather have Harrison Butker back there trying to chase down a kick returner or Justin Reid? It's clearly Justin Reid. Like that makes all the sense in the world why you would want somebody that's going to take a proper angle, going to have a better tackling attempt, all of those things. And now because there are two returners back there, you're trying to land it in a landing zone. So you're not just trying to put it through the back of the end zone, you're actually trying to drop it in there. It makes sense to at least try, because if Justin Reid can consistently put it in the landing zone, can consistently kind of draw things up the way that Dave Tobe, Andy Reid, whoever it is that's working on this with them, really wants to design their kick defense, he should be the one that's kicking it, because he gives you that significantly better chance to stop something from just going 100 yards for a touchdown. There are going to be a lot more kick returns this year that are going to result in scores, that are going to result in big, big kick returns, simply because of the way that guys are aligned, the way that they're approaching, the way that they have to wait for the ball to be caught, the setup zones, all of those things are going to factor in such a huge way. Having that extra safety valve back there just makes sense. So I love that they're trying it. I love that this is something that they're even exploring. This is a competitive advantage that the Chiefs have. There's not a ton of teams that are going to have a Justin Reid level kicker out there that they can trot back. And most kickers, I mean, Justin Tucker, booming leg, has the ability to probably drop it in the same spot on a landing zone. He wants no part of trying to, okay, maybe he does want a part. He's going to try and slide tackle somebody, but, he's not going to be as effective as a Justin Reid back there. I love that they're thinking outside the box and that this isn't just like a pity training camp. We're letting Harrison have some time, not wear out the leg sort of thing. This is a legitimate option that they're pursuing.
I wonder how valuable directional kicking is going to be from the kickoff perspective too, right? It feels like it diminishes that a little bit, right? So if you're just able to get a ball in the zone, like that feels like a win, and if that's really all that's required, I could see that being really manageable for Justin Reid to try to get that into the drop zone. And the Chiefs might even be more than willing to, live with a few mistakes here or there. If it allows them to limit the explosives for the majority of the time. I think one thing we probably need to consider too, it probably isn't a all or nothing kind of scenario either. Yeah. It might be that this is something that we're kind of like hemming it into Butker or Reid. It's probably Butker and Reid. There's probably some opportunities where they feel more apt to get somebody involved when there's a really good return team. Or, if they're playing the Raiders, then maybe Butker's kicking. So I don't know. I think you could see a mix and match of it. I don't think it's like an and or. I will say, I continue to say this. I don't really like that they're trying to involve the return game all that much when Patrick Mahomes is my quarterback, and I'd rather just not fluky, stupid things happen in the return game when my quarterback is just clearly better than any other quarterback on the planet. So that is the line I'll continue to maintain. But that's the new kickoff rule. I'm fascinated to see how the Chiefs approach it strategically. I do think it'll be a mix and a match. Like I think they'll pick their spots with Reid. I don't think it's an all or nothing.
Go out on a limb right now. Where do the Chiefs finish in like special teams DVOA or, like rankings by the end of the year? Where do we think they end up?
Maddie really wants to jump to this specialist talk at the end of the podcast here. I'm going to say 12, and I'll reveal why later.
Oh.
I'm going to say 11th, and I don't know why.
Wow, you guys have zero faith in Dave Tobe.
No, I have implicit faith in Dave Tobe.
I think that you guys, I think I know where you guys are going to go with it later, so I'm going to bring this back to the kickoff aspect. It's new. It's different. I think Tobe, Dave Tobe gets a lot of gruff from a lot of Chiefs coverage, this podcast, myself included, because it seems like he gets an inordinate amount of say in this Chiefs roster from the bottom end for guys that play on special teams. And if you need all these good players to be good on special teams, I wonder, are you really doing that good of a job coaching if it's just you have the better guys? Like, right? I wonder that. That said, I've seen enough from Dave Tobe to say like, he also kind of gets it. He does some really nice stuff when they do put in specific returns, whether it's using two guys, some of their directional stuff, it is pretty good. And I think if you incorporate some of Andy's gimmicky play stuff, because that's now involved with kickoffs, with the laterals and the reverses, along with Dave Tobe's mind and the fact that he's had all offseason, I think the Chiefs kickoff units, like coverage and return units, might be pretty darn good this year. And again, I think you guys are probably going to down talk on some of the punting aspect.
Yes.
But I wonder if the kickoff success, because of a guy like Tobe, might not be good enough to bring them up into the top 10, maybe even the top 5 for this first year while everyone's still trying to catch on to what this new kickoff rule looks like.
Oh, Dave Tobe is coming up with something. Like he's coming up with like the dual returner stuff that he did in Chicago was awesome. Like he is an innovator in the return game. I don't doubt that is going to be the case here. Now, we've also seen him be an innovator in Kansas City, and then we've seen some silly decision-making by some of the people back there. He has still not found the returners that he wants out there full-time. It's been a little while since we've had a consistent returner as Kansas City Chiefs fans back there, but I do think that he's going to come up with a lot of fun stuff, to your point, Maddie, and yes, the DVOA stuff is definitely on the punting aspect of it for me.
I can't wait for the AFC Championship game, Chiefs-Ravens. And one of the reasons that people pick the Ravens to beat the Chiefs is because the Ravens have had so much success in the kick return game this year. Like, I just can't wait for that to be one of the factors in it not mattering. And Patrick Mahomes,
Did you know that Jim Harbaugh used to be a special teams coach? Like, that's going to be the narrative leading up to it.
I can't wait. Anyways, moving on. Chris Jones making some comments today. You got some clips of Chris Jones working at Chiefs OTAs, getting ready for the season. Quote tweeting it with 20 plus sacks is what Chris Jones wants this year. I'd be thrilled with a 20 sack season from a Chris Jones, and I will not put anything past one of the best interior defensive linemen in the National Football League. But I think this kind of opens the door to just talk a little bit about expectations for Chris Jones on this last contract here, right? I don't know if a 20 sack season is attainable, and I don't know if they want him playing the kind of snaps that he's played the last few years. They might want to take that back a little bit to help lengthen that contract out. What kind of expectations do you have for Chris Jones, and how close to a 20 sack season do we think Chris Jones is getting this next year?
I think 20 sacks is a little ridiculous. And like, as he said, I expected 21 or more. Like it's over 20. It's a 20 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're getting 21 or more. I think it's disappointment. Like that's what he's now set us up for. I don't think 20 sacks is realistic for any defensive tackle at this point. Like it just doesn't seem likely, especially when you look at the rest of the Chiefs defensive line and where help and stuff is going to come from. The way the NFL has progressed over the years, 20 sacks at this point seems highly, highly unlikely. So we got to start looking at what are realistic expectations. I don't know if you can go into this year and the following year and just expecting Chris Jones to be the same first team all-pro dominant player all the time. Like even last year, he was pretty poor versus the run in the first half, the first 3 quarters of the games. He just didn't really try. The fourth quarter, he turns it up a little bit, and that's where he starts making a lot of his plays. So while he still played a lot of snaps last year, he was kind of not load managing, but effort managing himself throughout the first half of the game. He was waiting for big moments to really come in and make his impact be felt. And so I think you're going to get that more, only there also might be a layer of the team trying to protect him now. He's gotten paid now. The Chiefs no longer they just might help him a little bit. There's no reason for the Chiefs to try to run him into the ground anymore. So we'll see how it goes. I just think that we've already seen kind of what the management of his snap counts and or effort are going to be like. I think you just see a reduction in total overall snaps, but the production probably stays the same because he was already doing that the past couple seasons.
20 is unheard of. If Chris Jones goes out and gets 20 sacks, the entire contract's worth it already. I'll say that. I will. Like at that point, it's just like great work, buddy. You carried the defense yet again. You were well worth it. Like
player of the year,
done.
Player of the year territory there.
Oh yeah. I mean, he was third in AP Defensive Player of the Year voting with 15.5. Now, granted, he played the run a little bit better, but that was 2 years ago. But he was unreal that year. He was phenomenal. This is a better season than that. Now, I do think that a realistic expectation is above 12 for him. Like, I think that is a very realistic thing. He had 10.5 sacks last year. Everybody's going to point to that. Chiefs were in a lot of close games last year. That offense did not run away with games very often. They just did not. They weren't able to take over. They weren't able to put the opposition into pass-heavy scripts as often as we have seen in the Patrick Mahomes era. And that meant that Chris Jones doesn't just get to pin his ears back as often. I do expect that the offense is going to be better. So defense is going to be put in more advantageous situations there. Chris Jones is going to have more opportunities to turn it up, especially in the third and fourth quarters. I think he's going to be back up into the 12 to 13 sack range again. I don't know that it's going to look supremely different than 2023 did. He's just going to have more opportunities to do so. He's going to have more opportunities to not have to play the run, to pin his ears back, to get better advantageous looks as the game goes along. This entire defense, or the defensive line specifically, is built around him finding the weak link in the offensive line and exploiting it. If the Chiefs get a little bit better pass rush on the edges, if they're able to produce a little bit better, which we talked about the defensive ends earlier in this offseason, if they're able to do that, Chris Jones is going to have more advantageous looks. Yes, he's still going to get doubled most of the time, but those opportunities are going to come a little bit more often. If George Karlaftis develops a little bit more, Mike Dana continues his ascent. If we see some of these guys win a little bit more often in one-on-ones, you will see some of the blocking schemes then rotate a little bit to try and leave Chris Jones a little more exposed. So I think it's low teens, and that's an awesome year. I think that's probably, Aaron Donald's out of the picture now. He is retired. Chris Jones right now is a shoo-in for first-team All-Pro. I think if he gets 12 sacks, 13 sacks, I think that it's an almost automatic first-team All-Pro that he's going to hold down one of those two spots. May not be the best defensive tackle in the league, but with those kind of stats, he's a first-team All-Pro again, and we're talking about him as being the key cog of the defense yet again.
Well, he's got to be the key cog in this defense regardless, right? Like, they need him. That's why they paid him. That's what they're expecting out of him. I'm a little curious to see, I think 2022 was a career year for Chris Jones in just every aspect, the way he played, the run and the pass. I think, how that was the best version that we've seen out of Chris Jones. I'm a little curious to see, what that looks like this year, if we see a little bit more 2022 from him than we saw 2023. And like 2023 is not criticizing. It's just, you saw what Nate Tice wrote about him, when you're talking about, some of the inconsistencies in run defense early in the game or for the first three quarters. I wonder if you maybe see him be a little bit more consistent in that aspect of the game throughout the rest of it. Craig, you had your hand raised.
Just real quick here. We have already seen Chris Jones do more offseason work in that one clip than we saw last year.
Yeah.
So, I'm not chalking it up to just that, but Joe Cullen came in. Chris Jones played a significant amount better. Gap sound against the run, really good against the pass still, had the freedoms that he had before, comes in 2023 without an offseason. They walk into the season and just say, okay, if we get Chris back, well, we know he can rush the passer. I don't know that it won't be closer to 2022 because he's not worried about money. He's not worried about holding out. He's not worried about what training camp looks. He's going to be there. He's already there. So I do wonder if we see closer to 2022 as far as the run fits, the way that he's playing with everybody else, maybe than 2023 where it was, okay, we just have Chris get out there and rush the passer.
All right, we are going to take a break. Then we're going to talk about Justin Reid in the safety position and Justin Reid in the specialist position right after this.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
All that work I was doing to try to get Craig and Maddie to go golfing. And Craig, what are you doing here in a couple weeks?
What am I doing here in a couple weeks? I am going golfing. You're right.
Huh.
Yeah, weird.
Interesting.
Not with you, but I am going golfing.
Well, and I know you're trying to get clubs, and I would tell you, you should go check out PXG. As a golfer, I've been hearing people say, hey, PXG, nobody makes clubs better than they do, period. Guess what? I know they're right. I went in for a fitting and saw for myself. I got a chance to go swing the PXG Black Ops driver. I got to go in and meet with the wonderful people at the Overland Park location at PXG, and they always give you just an exceptional experience. But getting on the simulator, kind of getting to see the numbers and the analytics on my swing and better understanding the things that, are going to help me, have more success and more consistency with my driver. So they looked at the numbers, they saw my flight path on my balls and said, you know what? Maybe we try a little bit of a lower loft. So we lowered the loft a little bit. Still had the same distance there, but the ball wasn't flying as high in the air. Allowed for more consistency with my dispersion. Then you know what they said? Hey, you know what? Let's shorten the shaft a little bit and just kind of see if we can give you a little bit more control of the club. They did that too. Things worked out great. They have an incredible group of talented people at PXG in Kansas City that are ready to help give you an incredible fitting experience on whatever kind of clubs you're needing. I've got putters there, and they've helped me fix my putting game with finding the right putter for me. So I've had some incredible experiences with them. They've made me a believer, and they'll do the same for every golfer in Kansas City. Visit pxg.com/KC Laboratory to schedule your fitting at PXG Kansas City. That's at 7517 West 109th Street in Overland Park. Get fitted for any club, and you'll get a dozen golf balls free. That's pxg.com/KC Laboratory to schedule your fitting. pxg.com/KC Laboratory. Limit 1 dozen golf balls per person. The promotion ends June 30th, so hurry up and go get that. Other terms and conditions may apply. See store for detail. I love getting to talk about golf. I absolutely
This is
love
the Kent show. We led with golf. We middled with golf.
Isn't the Kent show, Craig? Anyways, we'll talk later. Let's get into the Maddie Lane and solely the Maddie Lane Italian food scale for positions.
Don't walk this back.
Matthew Lane.
You're not getting out of this.
Why
Just
don't
because you try to pull the
No.
veil down with some golf talk? You're not getting out of this. You're just as much a part of this Italian food scale as I am. Don't you dare.
There is
Okay,
no scenario.
So this is the final edition of the Italian food scale this year.
Yes.
I know everybody can cry. Everybody can everybody. It's okay, guys. It's okay. We'll come up with something new next year. Don't you worry. The food scale maybe it won't be food. Maybe it will be. There will be a new scale next year, but this is the final rendition of the Italian food scale. So it comes down to this. Elite players, elite position group, Garozzos, the best around, the best there is, the best there ever was. Right below that, very, very, very good Casconis. We like these. This position group's good. They can win. They're part of the core of this team. Below that, they're good enough. That's your lovely neighborhood Olive Garden. You go there, you know what you're getting. You always want a little bit more, but you're not upset once you go there for dinner. You go home that night, you're full, and you don't feel bad about yourself. And then the bottom rung, not good enough. Fazoli's. And Fazoli's. We got it. Kit gets it. Craig gets it. It's Fazoli's. We all know what that means.
I have a confession, and I've kind of waited in just till the last one.
Well, this is going to be good.
I like Olive Garden. I like it more than it sits on the scale a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy.
You're muted, Craig,
and that's
okay because you're probably saying unnice things to him, which I get.
It's perfectly acceptable. It's a good. I think I like it more than we have it on the scale. That's all I'm saying. I think this should have been a 5-point scale, and Olive Garden should have been dead in the middle. But now we have to kind of teeter on one side of the line, and I don't appreciate that because I think I like that a little bit more. That's
good.
All. Just a delicious salad, some good breadsticks, family.
When I'm going to eat Italian food, I love it to be led with how good their salad and breadsticks are.
I wasn't saying that was the only thing. I was just listing the things.
I'm craving some Italian food. Let me get that salad and breadsticks right at the top of it.
My kid's favorite restaurant right now. I like going there and seeing him happy.
It's a great favorite restaurant for a kid. It's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Wine's reasonably priced.
Yeah, I'm sure your kid loves the wine.
They come around with a lot of Parmesan cheese, and I'm sure that upsets Kit. So
it does. It does.
You knock it out of the waiter or waitress's hands?
I give that being said, I'm tempted to give this safety room a Garozzos. I love the depth. I absolutely love the depth of this safety room. I don't think there's any team in the NFL that has 4 better safeties in this group. I think fine. I'm going to do it. Just saying that statement, Garozzos. I'm going to give it a Garozzos. Yes, I know there's, 3 safeties on the field at any given time, if you're lucky, but I just love that this team has versatility. They have depth. They can withstand injury if something were to happen to this position. I think this is very similar to where the Chiefs had 4 good linebackers last year that you felt good about. I feel good about the 4 safeties on this Chiefs roster. I'm excited about a Jaden Hicks being your safety 4, getting to be essentially a package player, right? I think that's essentially what he could potentially be, is some kind of package player for this defense, but someone that could step in, potentially be the Justin Reid replacement. We're going to have to figure out if he can kick the ball. But other than that, I think this is a really strong group of players, and reason to get excited. There's some chinks in the armor, I think, when it comes to the argument about putting them in the Garozzo's territory. I'm sure one of you will probably cover this, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to put him in the Garozzo's. I think there's not a group that has 4 better safeties in the NFL, despite not maybe having a blue chip player at the position.
I'm going to go with the high-end Cascones, and it's only because it's lacking like that superstar level safety. Justin Reid is really good. Brian Cook, what we got to see last year, is good. Chamari Connor well overperformed, and it sounds like, according to Najee Johnson, that he is your starting nickelback right now, which makes sense. He played some there last year as well, and of course he's going to rotate around. And then, Jaden Hicks as well. Like you've got 4 guys that you feel very comfortable with them being on the field in any singular role. It just lacks that superstar. It lacks that guy that's the field tilter a little bit. They got, again, Justin Reid is close, but he's not quite to the level of some of the other guys in the league that you just stay the hell away from at all costs. You know, when you think of some of the great safeties in the game now, in the past, you don't throw at those guys. You don't throw near those guys. Justin Reid, you throw out a little bit on occasion, but he's a physical presence. Kent, to your point, there are not 4 bigger safeties. There's not a bigger safety room in the league. These guys, this is a massive room that is going to play physical, and they are going to terrify a lot of offenses. But I don't know that we're going to see a safety room that all of a sudden is going to be, oh, wow, look at them. They're the reason why there were 14 interceptions that happened on this defense last year. It's just they're built a little bit differently. They're built just not the same way that we see some of these other superstar safety groups. This is more of a, hey, maybe it's a Jaden Hicks game. Maybe it's a Chamari Connor game. Maybe it's a Justin Reid game, and they're just going to kind of rotate around. It's going to be incredibly well-rounded. So very, very high Cascones, high-end tier 2 safety group out of this one.
Yeah, I got a little stuck here trying to decipher between a Cascones and a Garozzo's as well, because I agree with you guys. There isn't the blue chip, there isn't this star, there isn't a safety that's really going to take over any game. There are certain game scripts in which Justin Reid can come up and play a huge role. If Chamari Connor takes that step forward that we all kind of think, and he maybe eats into that nickel role a little bit more, there are games at which he might be able to come forward in the next season and kind of take over that game. But you can't really predict who that's going to be. You can't say with any true confidence that's going to happen any given weeks. Like that right there already presents the first hurdle to getting to the Garozzo's level. But then the next part of it is, but where are they bad? How do teams attack this safety? Where are they like, yeah, we're going to attack you enough to beat you? Craig's right. Justin Reid can beat God a little bit if you get him lined up in man coverage. Brian Cook, I think, has been good as a deep safety, but he's not great. He's not the rangiest guy. So if you get them isolated with Brian Cook or Reid or Connor or even Hicks, Jaden Hicks, is a single high safety, they probably don't have elite sideline to sideline or, numbers to numbers range on the back end, but you have to find it at the right time. I don't think that you can look at this safety and be like, oh no, we're going to attack them all game, have success and drive the ball up and down the field. That's why I talked about maybe I was a little bit lower on the linebacker room as a whole, was because teams found success specifically attacking them. I don't think you can do that to the safety room either. So I think I'm going to lean into the depth because I do think they're 4 deep. I think they're going to have 4 guys that can all play at the NFL level. I like Jaden Hicks coming out of college more than I like Chamari Connor, more than I like Brian Cook, and both of them were fine. So if he hits the NFL slightly better than them, that's 4 deep at the position without there being this super glaring need. All the guys kind of have these strengths in their game. I think I'm going to give them a Garozzo's. I think they just slip in. I'm relying on the depth, and it was a tough one for me though.
I think that's fair. I think the only other argument I would ask is I would suggest and throw out is you could probably poke holes in this group a little bit by saying, well, Brian Cook's coming off injury and Jaden Hicks is a rookie, right? So there's some, you can poke a few holes in there if you really want to, but I'm not willing to do that. I think Brian Cook's had a good recovery timeline here. Plenty of time to recover. And I'm buying into Jaden Hicks. I watched a little bit more of him the other day. Just continue to get excited about him and what he can potentially be within this defense. So, yeah, I'm excited about this group. And, I think the good news is 3 of those guys are on the roster in 2025 as well. This is a group that will not have much of a fall off if they are to just let Justin Reid walk. In fact, this is a place that if Jaden Hicks does achieve what we anticipate he's capable of doing, you're looking at a group that doesn't have to add investments of a ton of substance into that room and just let those three players just kind of cook a little bit. So I'm excited about the safety room. Speaking of Justin Reid, though, we do need to talk about the specialists because specialists are people too now that Justin Reid is kicking. I'm just kidding. But no, let's talk about it. So how do we kind of and okay, the first question I have, does James Winchester, are we including James Winchester in this?
James Winchester is a Garosos, and that's the end of the conversation.
All right, cool. Okay, so Justin Reid, Harrison Butker, Matt Areza, and Ryan Reckow, the punter conversation, the punter competition there. What do we give the specialist group here, Matthew?
I don't know.
I love that you led with him.
I got nothing for this. Are we okay? Are returners included in specialists?
No.
No. Okay. I was asking because I figured we'd want to represent every position on the team, but I guess we're not going to include the returners.
Nope.
No,
those guys.
No one's labeled returner unless you are probably not great at football.
Punt returner, Xavier Worthy, kick returner. Nope, somebody's.
But that's not his title. He's a wide receiver. You know that. Don't do this. Don't
go to
natty
Teams.com. Go to the roster.
Prince makes the roster. He is a kick returner. If Luis
Zammit makes the roster, he's a kick returner.
Well, I got good news for you.
Let's call a spade here. I don't know. They're specialists. That's what their grade is. Why
is this on the rundown then?
Wasn't Craig? Craig had some takes. Craig wanted to let some takes fly. I think this is great. Butker, very good kicker. Winchester, sure, good long snapper. I don't remember very many bad snaps, so we'll call that A+. Let's see what the punting group does. I think Matt Areza has a very big leg. If he, under any circumstance, has controlled his directional punting a little bit, now that Tommy Townsend was always great at it anyway, especially in high-pressure situations, then
all
pro
really Tommy Townsend.
Yeah, no, but it's when it was the pressure situations where he.
I know.
So I mean, we'll see. They might take a small step back. They might take a step back from the punting. We'll see. We'll have to see how it goes. I don't know. I haven't dug into the Matt Areza NFL preseason film yet. So,
well, it's fine. It wasn't great. That's where my question mark is, because Harrison Butker is a top 2 kicker in this league, and he's probably not 2 after last year. So,
take that, Justin Tucker.
Yeah, that's who I was referring to. Thank you.
Move your kicking tee.
Move it to where Harrison puts his. Oh, wait.
Move it to Cabo where you were during the Super Bowl.
That's true. So, yeah, it falls to Matt Areza and Ryan Reckow. Areza. Thank you, kid. Thank you, buddy. I did that one on purpose for you. No, sure I think everybody wanted just to give it to Punt God, and he could still very much win this battle. And I think it's one of those that, like, when he was signed, Tommy Townsend was left, to go get a bigger contract somewhere else. Everybody just went, oh, well, there's the punter. Chiefs brought in punting competition, and this wasn't just, a mini camp invite. They typically, after the draft, every single year, they add somebody as a mini camp invite. They don't really stick around. Then they go into camp, and there's not really a ton of competition there. Even when there is quote unquote competition, Bearcat and I like to tell the story of watching Jack Fox walk around just dropping the ball, working on his punt drop just for an entire camp. Essentially, that man wasn't making the roster. It wasn't a roster spot for him. I think that Reckow actually has a shot at this. Punt God has a massive leg. Just, he can boom punts. His directional punting is not great. Neither is Reckow's, but he, if you're just looking for pure distance, Punt God has it. Reckow is no slouch. Like, he had 7 games last year where he had a punt over 60 yards, and he is a line drive punter. He's got tons of leg to him, and he held throughout college, which is something that Dave Tobe really, really, really wants here. Doug Pettipeter, right there. Bucker will have a new holder. Could be an issue, especially if a guy like Punt God, who just learned to hold last NFL preseason, has not had a ton of reps doing it, has not come into the NFL with the kind of experience that Raquel. If push comes to shove, you've got a punter with a big leg that you just brought in as a UDFA, competing with a guy that you picked off on a 1-year deal off of waivers and is getting paid next to nothing. If holding is the thing that settles this, it might actually tip towards Raquel. Like, it really might. So I think that this is one that, because there's so many question marks at punter, that could affect the kicker, that could affect the way that things go. Ideally, the Chiefs never punt, yes, but could affect the way that things go. I'm giving this a low-end Cascones. I wanted to give it all the way down at an Olive Garden, but Harrison Butker is just too good of a kicker. I can't, in good faith, drop it below the midpoint.
Fun fact, Raquel is older than Matt Araiza.
Yeah. He's from BYU.
It doesn't. Yeah. That's. Are we sure it's competition and it's not just a beat? Okay, Craig.
I would like it to be known that should the Kansas City Chiefs find themselves in a situation where they are struggling to find a holder, I am right down the street. Vet minimum, I would. Those
tiny hands.
Really stole them with your 3-cone earlier. It's so.
Here's the thing. I had a lot of success as a holder, did some good things, and I like to believe that my double jointed fingers allowed me to properly position the ball well, even though I do have hands that would not meet quarterback thresholds. That's all. But the double jointedness allowed me to position the football well, and that's all. I did a good job there. That's all.
I rate it.
I was Cascones. It's above average. It's above average, even with questions at punter. But this team doesn't need a punter. They should just let Justin Reid do it. Just let him do everything. Justin Reid can hold too.
Listen, you're down the street. You're down the street as a holder. Tuck's down the street as a punter. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, actually, we should get Tucker's specialist breakdown on the Italian food scale here. I see him. The microphone's coming in. Tucker, we need your takes, bud.
Was that like yummy or like?
He got literally lost in the sauce.
Yeah, I had a mouthful of Cascones, is what I was thinking of. I will go with a DoorDash Garozos.
Okay. I like it.
That's vibes, because they don't have a punter that's ever made an NFL kick before. So
it's true.
The guy's nickname was Punt God, though. Like, if we're just like, if you had him coming into the NFL as a rookie, pre-off-field issues and being waived from a team, you'd feel pretty good about that guy as your punter. There's a lot of non-football field related smoke to Araiza not being good. No, I'm not. Craig is right. His directional punting was never that great, but that's also not what he was asked to do, as San Diego State went 3 and out over and over again and made him punt from the 22-yard line every other series. Okay, distance was all that mattered for him. But alas, think that people have to remember that this guy was a high-end punting prospect, and that doesn't happen often.
And wasn't the first punter off the board or the second. Yeah, Jordan Stout went first, the number 2 punter in the KCSN draft guide that year, because he could directionally punt, and Punt God couldn't. It was rough.
Well, this is going to be rough too. Craig Stout.
Yes, sir.
I know you have a something you wanted to close the show out with. So
yes, I do. For everybody that's listening right now, you have just witnessed my last show as a regular on the KC Laboratory. Things are great. I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing so wonderful that my free time has now been consumed by a lot of other things, to the point where I can't regularly be on this show with these two wonderful humans. I I have spent the last 6 years getting to talk football with these two individuals. Don't look at the camera.
I'm sorry, man.
These two individuals. And I know that there are going to be some people that are going to be sitting here going, oh, man, great. Craig's gone. Now I can listen to it again. There'll be a small number of you that may look at this and go, well, I don't want to listen to this anymore. I can tell you that for the past 6 years, I have listened to these two talk football. I have gotten my own personal KC Laboratory podcast with these two. They have been nothing but gracious to me. I have learned so much. I have gained lifelong friends. And when we started KCSN 3.5 years ago, at that point, I was getting ready to do what I'm doing right now. And I could not let an opportunity to do this with these two, BJ Kissel, Tucker D. Franklin, pass me by. So I'm still going to show up on this network. I'm not going anywhere. You guys are going to see me on the KC Lab in the future. It's just not going to be regular. I'm still going to pop in, still going to have football takes. I'm just not going to be the guy that is going to be here in the 3 box with these two every single week. So for any of you out there that read anything that I did, listened to anything that I did, followed along with anything that I did, donated to the KCSN Foundation, which is the best thing that the 5 of us have ever done in this space, I thank you. I love you. And I really appreciate all the time that you've allowed for me in your lives, no matter how small. So for BJ Kissel, Tucker D. Franklin, 2 humans that I love the most on this world that aren't my direct family, Maddie Lane and Kent Swanson, I'm Craig Stout. Be kind to each other. I'll catch you later.
Craig is great.
So very great.